Being a minute to populate, but good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for part one of our December 2024 chapter meeting. We like to call this the Procrastinators Workshop. Gives you that last opportunity to get your CEUs. All these are HSW today. So hopefully we see most of you throughout the day. With that, we've got a really good presentation to start off the morning with, or afternoon, depending where you're at. Kristen, Fantin with Schluter, and then also Mark Brooks. They're going to do a presentation on moisture management and tiled showers. And if you have questions, we have a Q&A box down there. Go ahead and ask them along the way, and we will take a pause and try and get them answered in real time. But with that, I'd like to hand it off to Kristen.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Kristen Fantin. I've been with Schluter Systems for almost 6 years. I've really been in tile my whole life, so roughly about 20, ever since college. Thank you for joining us. Greatly appreciated. I'm an architectural manager. I cover Michigan, Ohio, and Indiana. So if you're taking this webinar and you're in my area, feel free to drop a note in the chat and I'm happy to connect with you afterwards. Or I'll probably get a list of everybody that attended. So I'll make sure that if I'm your rep, I'll definitely reach out. If not, I will make sure that your local rep reaches out and to check and see if you have any questions. But thank you for joining us. And I'm going to let Mark Brooks go ahead and introduce himself as well.
Yes, good morning, everybody. My name is Mark Brooks. I've been in the tile and stone industry since about 1993, including 9 years on the installation side and 20 years in technical support.
All right, perfect. I am just going to hide the dialog box and we will get rolling. This is a great presentation. It's probably one of my favorites. So moisture management and tiled showers. It is, my clickers decided to not work. It is ID, CEC, and AIA accredited. So after this, we won't be calling any products out by name. But again, if you do have questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to ask and we can get those answered for you. So just a quick overview on what we'll be discussing today, some different topics that we'll kind of dive into a little bit. So kind of heading off into the benefits of using tiles in a shower. So tile is super durable. It's meant to last a long time. And really kind of we take a look at a historical perspective of tile, and it's been around for quite a long time. We have some beautiful wonders around the world, and we oftentimes wonder, how can those installations last as long as they do, where we have installations that happen today, and we really struggle for them to last anywhere from 5 to 7 years. So tile is really meant to be a very durable product. Benefits, another benefit is definitely hygienic. It really helps with the concerns of mold growth, with different smells. There's no organic material in tile. So tile is roughly fired at about 1,000 degrees. So there's really nothing left alive in it. So hygienic, definitely easier to clean, especially now when we're getting to those larger format tiles. Everybody likes the 2 foot by 4 foot. So now we're kind of getting into smaller grout joints. I know a lot of the complaint in the industry is grout, more tile, less grout, but definitely tile is meant to be easier for maintenance. Versatile. So I know I mentioned I've been in the industry for about 20 years. I started at a time where black and white 8x8s were the popular tile. Now we have tiles that look like wood. You can't even tell the difference. Some of them look like they have rivets in them. So it's really a luxurious and versatile product. It can be very creative. So lots of different options on the market. High end appeal. So especially when you're getting into like a multifamily or a really nice hotel, a lot of times those bathrooms and installations will have large format porcelain tile in them. I think it dresses it up, definitely gives it a high end look. Um, low life cycle or low cost life cycle on the product. So I know tile has an upfront cost, which can tend to scare people off, I think. But if you look at the life cycle and the cost of tile, it really tends to kind of dip down over time. So it's definitely a sustainable material. You know, the price on the life cycle on tile can be anywhere from 30 to 50 years if installed properly. When you get into your luxury vinyls and your carpet, a lot of times those are really installed for roughly 5 to 7 years. So tile really is a more sustainable product to install. So kind of heading into moisture management. So average, we like to ask these questions in workshops. How much water tends to pass through the average shower a year? So it's kind of fun to talk about. Don Halverson, he is kind of like a tile CSI in a way. He's a forensic investigator and came up with a study just on how much water tends to pass through an average shower per year. And it's based on a flow rate of 2.5 gallons a minute, an average 12-minute shower a day. That's for one person. So if you're sharing a shower or there's more than one person using it, you can double or triple it. So looking at roughly about 10,950 gallons per year. Once that's averaged out, it roughly comes out to about 1,100 inches of rainfall in your shower per year. So again, looking at that 12-minute a day shower based on an average, ending up with roughly around 1,100 inches of rainfall a year. We kind of compare it to Seattle, definitely not the rainiest city, but kind of gives you a good indication of how much water compared to inside versus outside you get within a shower area. So again, just kind of taking a look at the same thing, 1,100 inches inside, 36 inches outside. But outside, we're not really dealing with materials that are moisture sensitive. But inside we are. So we really kind of want to dive into what we're using to install ceramic and porcelain tile, even natural stone, to make sure that we're using the proper materials that can manage moisture effectively when we're installing. So this is an example of a 3-year-old shower. So kind of at the start of my career, I was in a tile showroom for a little bit. So oftentimes I would get customers that would come in, have the same type of issue where you can see that mold growing around that back bench area. So we kind of tear it apart and we see that there's quite an issue underneath. It reminds me of one of those photos where circle everything that is a problem. And really here there's a lot going on. We can definitely see the mold growth. The shower was installed with a mastic, which should never be used in a wet installation area. We also see that we have some standing tile ridges. So anytime we're installing tile in a wet area, we want to make sure that we're getting roughly 95 to 100% coverage with thinset. So those shouldn't look like ridges. They should be collapsed behind it. We also see some trowel marks running in opposite directions towards the middle of the bench at the bottom. So we're really looking for collapsed ridges behind that tile installation. It's much easier when they all run in one direction. So when you're collapsing the ridges, you kind of know which way to rock the tile. If you've never seen the video, there's a great video put on by the TCNA. It's called Trowel and Error. They take a 12 by 24 piece of glass and they show you a couple different ways on how to install it, looking at making sure that you're getting a full coverage behind that tile. So they use a couple different notch sizes to give you an example.
Kristen, real quick.
Yep.
This obviously is the extremes of a demolition. Was this a discovery after the fact, or was there a sign that tile was beginning to fail?
That's a great question. So a lot of times you'll have issues beforehand. So if you kind of see mold growing within the grout joints, or where you have like a floor meeting a wall, a lot of times what people will do is they'll just buy caulk and they'll recaulk it and hope they'll clean it, recaulk it and hope for the best. But really, mold is kind of a systemic problem. So all it's going to do is just kind of keep coming back. Who knows if it's 3 months or 6 months later, but typically when you kind of see the telltale signs of grout, or I'm sorry, mold forming in different grout lines, you know that you may have a problem beyond that. Kind of like on a floor installation. A lot of times if you have grout cracking out of a tile joint, you know that it's not the grout problem. Perhaps the tile's moving, so there may not be enough coverage under that tile. It may be loose. So there's always some telltale signs that kind of point you in the direction that you may have an issue beyond that installation.
Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. So just a key takeaway, a tiled surface is not waterproof. I like to think of tile as a decorative wear surface. So really, tile is just there to beautify the space. We kind of peel everything back, kind of take a look. We see that the bench was built with some moisture sensitive products. We see some wood. We see some water that's gotten behind there and is now kind of starting to mold and really destroy that shower from the inside out. So why does it happen? A shower must be able to manage moisture in both liquid and vapor forms. So not just the water that comes out of the shower head, but also the vapor that forms during the shower as well. So the definition of moisture management is liquid and vapor, capable of evacuating an environment efficiently without adversely affecting the materials that were used to build that shower. So I know everybody's probably done this. What you're seeing here is vapor is a gas. So essentially what you're looking at here is the buildup of vapor. So that's why you can draw words on the mirrors in the bathroom or little smiley faces. But really you're able to kind of see the buildup of vapor after with all the moisture. So talking about vapor drive, here we can see our stud cavity and our tiled surface. So essentially what happens when it gets pretty warm in the shower, it's always looking, the air is always looking to equalize, essentially. So you have that warm air in the shower, and what it's trying to do is it's really trying to find that cool spot to equalize. So what happens is it drives through the stud cavity. It essentially turns into a vapor, passes through the stud cavity, and then magically kind of reforms into water droplets. So that's how sometimes you have that mold that forms on those stud cavities in installations. Here we're looking at some different effects of poor moisture management. I think this slide and the next couple are examples of a flying J truck stop. So what happened here is that it wasn't waterproofed properly. And now again, you can kind of see that mold coming through that substrate in the back, trying to kind of equal itself out a little bit. This is the outside of the bathroom wall, so we can see mold kind of coming through the outside area. So again, just trying to equalize from one area to the other. It just wants to be equal. So it's trying to take that warm air and find a place to cool off where it can level out, essentially. So your necessary conditions for mold are going to be water, a neutral to acidic pH level, an organic food source. So sorry to say, it's probably some of the shampoos that are on the market, body washes, mixes with skin cells once you're in the shower. You couple that with a nice warm temperate climate, and you will essentially have mold. So the key to mold control is making sure that, again, we're managing that moisture content within the shower. So just kind of taking a look at two different job scenarios where clearly it wasn't managed properly. So on the left-hand side, definitely more of I would say, I don't know, I see the wood studs, so I always kind of relate it to a little bit more residential. But even on the right-hand side, you see some corrosion with metal studs happening in that area as well. So even though you have metal studs, it's still prone to mold in certain areas as well. So consequences, obviously some adverse health effects, unhygienic conditions, unpleasant odor. And I know a lot of times, sometimes you can walk into a bathroom and it immediately hits you right away. In the last house we had, it was a shower pan that was just put on a subfloor, and the contractor put mud on top of it. So essentially that mud bed was always wet for the entire life of the shower. So you would essentially walk into the bathroom and you could automatically just smell that unpleasant odor, inviting environment for insects and vermin. I've seen quite a few pictures that I wish I haven't, not included in the webinar, so everybody can have lunch after this. And it definitely creates conditions favorable to efflorescence, which is an issue as well. Creates a negative association with tile. So I think that really is a huge thing. I think that's a lot of times why you see, and especially maybe for cost factors as well, but a lot of companies going to single installations because they don't want to deal with that negative association with tile because of mold. And really, if you can manage the most important part, which is the prep work that goes in before the tile, I can guarantee you that you will have a beautiful tile installation. So just some key takeaways. A tiled surface is not waterproof. Tile, again, is really, I like to think of it as a decorative wear surface. Preventing mold preventing moisture buildup prevents mold. And then also we want to make sure that we're able to handle both liquid and vapor forms in the shower area, making sure they're able to exit without adversely affecting any building materials in there. We're gonna head into different shower types. So on the left-hand side, we have our traditional system, which is oftentimes called our water in, water out. And then on the right-hand side, we see a different option of a sealed system. So kind of a bonded waterproofing type installation. Quick video on the water in, water out. So we have our solid backing in, or we're putting our solid blocking in along the perimeter of that shower. We're putting down probably tar paper, some lath on top of that. And now we're installing our pre-pitch, which is super important. Once that's dry and cured, you come back and put a pan liner on top of it, making sure to install all the boots on the corner. And now essentially what's going to happen is the contractor is going to perform a water test. So essentially filling up that area with water and letting it last about 24 hours, kind of drawing a watermark on the wall just to see where the start portion is, and then coming back 24 hours later to make sure that that hasn't changed. So essentially, yes, at this point, the shower will pass a water test. A lot of times what happens after the water test, nobody knows. A lot of times showers can kind of become the job site area where everybody stores everything. So ladders and tools. So even though you've passed a water test, now you may have issues with something puncturing that pan liner. Next, we're going to come back and we're going to mud our walls and then mud our curb on top of that. We're going to leave some spacers along the bottom for the shower floor. And then next, we're going to install our tile on top of that. So essentially here we have our pre-pitch, we have our pan liner, our first layer of mud, and now we're going in our second layer, and now we're going to install tile on top of that. And really, we saw those weep holes in the bottom, kind of where they put the spacers, and essentially that is for any secondary water that kind of doesn't make it down the drain. I know they'll show a cutaway real quick, so we'll kind of talk about that a little bit. So essentially what we have, again, we have that water kind of getting through the grout joints, hitting that pan liner. And because we have that pre-slope underneath it, that pan liner is going to allow that excess water to flow freely to the drain and exit throughout those weep holes. Over time, however, those can become clogged with calcium deposits, skin cells, soap. So a lot of times you may have buildup after the fact and down the road. So taking a look at a traditional system with mortar walls, we can see that we have our pre-slope that has gone in, which is very important, making sure that any secondary water that gets through the tile and through the concrete hits that pan liner, and because it's sloped, is able to make it towards the weep holes. And we have our mortar bed on the wall. As a side note, I'm married to a tile contractor, and this is exactly how he has done his work for at least 20 years. So proper, correct way. A lot of times it's heavy to install. It takes time to dry. So essentially once that pre-slope is in, there's really nothing that can be done until that concrete has cured to come back on top of it. So it is slow to build. It can be heavy, but this is the proper way to install with mortar walls. Kind of taking a look at some backer board options. So B415. We see a couple different options. We see on the left-hand side, a cement backer board, and then also on the right-hand side, kind of getting into something that's a little bit more lightweight, easier to use. So on the left-hand side, we can see that cement backer board has essentially been embedded in that tile mortar. We'll kind of talk about that a little bit. On the right-hand side, because fiber backer is much more thirsty. We can't put it in the shower in that mud bed because it's just gonna uncontrollably just wick water up it. But again, I just want to point out we have our weep holes and two different backer options for this installation. So just kind of taking a look at that shower area, we have our flexible sealant in the corner. And again, we can kind of see that pre-slope. But now what we have is we have that capillary action. So we have any excess water that kind of gets through the tile, hits that mortar bed. Now, because we've embedded that cement board in the concrete, what's going to happen is it's going to kind of wick up the walls as well. So it has to do with making sure that we're not penetrating our shower pan liner with screws and washers. So the easiest thing to do was to hold it in place by placing it in the cement. But now we have this type of scenario that happens where it starts to kind of wick up the wall a little bit. So we see that cement backer, and then we see that moisture kind of moving up the wall a little bit. And then again here, just taking a closer look at that cement backer board. Again, we have that gap just to make sure that we're not going to pull moisture out of that concrete. And then just a quick video on an installation that is improperly done. So we're putting that pan liner right on the subfloor. So essentially any low spots will hold water for the life of this installation. Wrapping the curb, no boots installed on the corners. However, it's going to get a flood test and it will essentially pass. So there are some different issues here, but it will pass the water test because it will hold water. Next, we're going to install our vapor barrier and we're going to install some cement board. But now we're going to penetrate that cement board below where we should. And then we're going to also do the same thing with the curb. So we're just creating pockets for moisture to move through to create issues beyond that. So now we have our concrete on the floor, and now we're just going to install tile right on top of it. And, you know, the shower will work. It will run, but over time, you will have issues beyond that. So this is when you start to see the grout kind of discoloring a little bit. You clean it, you recaulk it, but the issues will still remain. So we can see here that the water gets through the tile and kind of hits that pan liner. And because there's no pre-pitch under that, there's really no place for that water to go. So it will either stay there or it will find the lowest point on that shower floor and just hang out there forever. So, I mean, if you can imagine that concrete slab being soaked for the entire lifetime of that shower. Peeling back the layers a little bit, we have some issues here with water getting through because we've penetrated our shower pan liner. And we'll look at some slides that kind of show where they should be in different options, but again, kind of looking at the curb as well. So you have some issues there too with mold growth as well.
Do you see this as a common installation error?
It's a huge installation error. So you really, if you are going to use a mortar bed, if you are going to follow the TCNA guidelines to install something like this, you really do need that pre-pitch underneath. I see it, I have seen it a lot in residential installations. So it is a commonly used method, unfortunately, within the residential, I think. I don't think you have a lot of pre-pitch happening when it comes to installing, but it's needed. But it takes long. You know, you're putting an installer on a job, and then all he can do is the pre-pitch, and then he's got to leave and go to the next job. So really, there's no quick turnaround on it. So yeah, I have seen it.
Okay, thanks.
So just kind of taking a look at some of the portions of this faulty installation, the liner is not high enough. The liner should, I believe, industry used to be 8 inches above the shower floor, but it was changed because people wanted lower curbs. It should essentially be 3 inches above the curb. We see that there's no slope to the drain here. So that shower pan liner is just sitting flat on the floor. We actually looked at houses 4 years ago, and this was very much what we saw on a shower floor. Again, any screws or nails that go into securing any type of board should be 3 inches above the curb. So definitely we see that they're pretty low here. And now hopping over to a sealed system. Are there any other questions on a traditional?
No others have popped up. Thanks.
All right, heading into sealed systems, so bonded waterproofing. We're going to talk about liquid applied a little bit. So a liquid applied membrane must dry before installing the tile. There's unpredictable drying times. They can require multiple coats. But the most interesting thing I heard is that essentially liquid applied membranes are ensuring that the contractor is the waterproofing. Like the contractor is the waterproofer at this point. So it's not like you're picking up a material and it's just being installed. The contractor is really responsible when you use a liquid applied to be the waterproofer. So a lot of times you have opportunity for installer error on something like this. Sometimes every manufacturer has a different set of rules. So sometimes it's 2 coats, north, south, east, west. You really have to kind of read and know what each manufacturer is looking for. We see kind of like a gauge in the bottom right-hand corner. I'm not too sure that a lot of manufacturers include this type of thing with their liquid applieds. So basically waterproofing should be 8 mils thick. And this gauge here is essentially so you know how thick your waterproofing is if you're using some type of roll-on. Essentially what happens though, every time you apply a layer of a liquid applied membrane, it tends to shrink and kind of pull together. So even though some manufacturers may say that it's 2 coats, you may actually need more. So you're going to need a uniform thickness. A lot of times when you get into those corners, sometimes it can become really kind of piled up. So if you have a lot of material in the corners or your seams, it's going to take a longer time for it to dry. So a couple different scenarios that can kind of change it. This specific one here, you have to use a type of mesh banding that goes with it. And not all liquid applieds are going to be a vapor retardant as well. Just kind of talking about the thin set mortar, sometimes it can take anywhere from 30 to 60 days to dry, depending on what type you're using, especially if you're using a latex modified thin set. So you really want to check the bags as well.
We did have one.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I had a question come in. I think it goes back to your detail where you had shown, screws that were below that 3-inch line. Is there any issues with keeping the fasteners above the 3-inch line for the cement board, fiberboard installations?
No, I would say that it can lead to errors if you're not waterproofing on top of it. That vapor can travel through those penetrations. I mean, as long as you're sticking to the TCNA guidelines on where you should start them, I think that's standard for the industry. I don't know if Mark has anything he wants to add on that.
Yeah, one of the things that I've noticed typically in commercial applications in that scenario is that you can actually have unplumbed walls because the shower pan liner causes that backer board to bulge out at the bottom. So when you're going in to do the installation, unless you have chiseled out studs where you have wood studs so that everything sits flush, you could have some discrepancy in the size of the tile towards the bottom of that shower itself.
Thank you. That is a very good point. And then just some other compatibility issues with other two-stage drains. Here we're taking a look at the divot method and just making sure that everything is waterproof tight up to that drain area. So sometimes it can be difficult to integrate. You have to make a mold that goes with it. Sometimes if it's not done properly, you really end up with tile around the drain area that looks like it stays saturated for a long time. And then again, just kind of taking a look at this detail, better detail. We have a bonded waterproof membrane continuous to the full height of the tile assembly, but we're still kind of mixing it a little bit with other methods. Heading into a sheet applied membrane. So sheet applied membranes are waterproof and vapor tight. They have a uniform thickness. So, I mean, really, we're just talking about consistency here. So pretty quick and easy to install. Also, 8 mils thick. So it something like this will meet ANSI 11810. And also it's inorganic as well. So there's no place on this type of sheet applied membrane for anything to grow or anything to cause mold. Taking a look at this detail here, really kind of the major player in this one is going to be your integrated bonding flange that ties in to that continuous waterproof membrane that goes up the wall. So here we're looking at the detail. Here we're seeing a cutout. If you notice that integrated bonding flange also has some waterproofing around it. So all the different parts and pieces are meant to incorporate on top of each other, kind of like lasagna, I guess is the best way I can describe something like this. Really, we're just dealing with layers here to create a waterproof bond. So benefits of bonded waterproof membranes. They create a waterproof seal within the point drain area. So it's one single point where that water is going to flow to. So there are contractors who still prefer to do a mortar bed. You can definitely integrate some sheet applied membranes on top of them as well. What's nice about some of them on the market is that you can use them as soon as you can walk on the concrete. So you're not waiting for that full cure. What's nice is that it keeps a little bit of moisture in that concrete for a longer period of time, so it doesn't dry out and crack. It can be installed over solid backing. So you can see this installer here is installing it on top of drywall, which makes it pretty easy. And also you're ready to accept tile. So there's really no downtime. Once this type of bonded waterproofing is installed, you can get right on top of it and start installing the tile. So it's really about ease of installation and also quickness of turning that job around. So just kind of taking a look at all the different parts and pieces of a bonded waterproof system. So we're going to kind of peel back the layers here. We have our uncoupling membrane on the outside floor. We have our unfinished solid backing. And next, we're just going to start installing our sheet applied membrane, overlapping by 2 inches to secure that waterproof connection. Just a different type of install. You can butt the seams together and then run this banding product on top of it. So essentially it's kind of like hanging wallpaper. Pretty quick and easy, installed with thin set mortar, pipe seals and mixing valves. Again, already have that waterproof connection integrated on there. So quick and easy to install. We've checked and made sure that our shower floor is level and flat. So now we can install our preformed shower tray on top of that. Sloped at a 2%. So that specific one does come pre-sloped. We have preformed inside and outside corners going in. So again, just overlapping everything, making those connections, overlapping by 2 inches, just really creating a waterproof envelope to shower in. So essentially, we have our banding going in around the perimeter. And then we're also going to band on the outside floor too. So specifically this type of uncoupling membrane, if you're banding the seams, will create a waterproof connection on the outside floor as well. Next, we're going to install our donut piece, wait 24 hours, and then we're going to water test the area. So essentially this shower right here, say there's no tile, your tile's on back order, you're waiting for it to come in. This can essentially be showered in. This is a fully waterproof shower, so you're good to go.
Kristen, this is probably my miss. What's the gray material?
Thin set.
Just
nope,
thin set?
Yep, thank you. That's a thin set mortar that's used to connect all the different pieces.
And there hasn't been any issues with, so that's holding the bonded system together, but you don't get any weeping behind it?
So essentially, there is a specific notch you want to use for installing it. Okay. And essentially the same way you install tile, the ridges behind that sheet applied get collapsed. So we're fully embedding that membrane into the substrate and then evacuating any excess thin set behind it. So it's kind of like Velcro, I guess is the best way to describe it. When the thin set and the membranes come together, it's like Velcro. It's like a hook and loop. It pulls tight to waterproof.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. So again, using a mortar bed installation on a shower floor is definitely acceptable. Again, I know there's a lot of contractors who are still using this method. Just kind of taking a look at some other examples here of Franken showers, I guess is the best way to term it. So mixing manufacturers, using parts from this one, parts from that one. You know, I think I'll say at this point, I would use one manufacturer. So if you are using manufacturer A, use everything, including the thin set that manufacturer A offers. Really try and stick with whatever you're using as a full system. Stick with that whole manufacturer all the way through until the end. So again, no warranty. So it's really going to hurt your ability to get a warranty with any type of installation. And again, elevated risk of failures. So a lot of manufacturers out there will test all their products with their specific thin sets to make sure they work properly. So once you kind of start mixing A and B together, sometimes you can have an elevated risk when they're not used properly. And then just taking a look at, again, that liquid applied membrane with a two-stage drain, time consuming, increased labor costs, elevated risk of failure. And again, they're not all vapor retardant. And sometimes I think that you're not getting the full coverage you need when it comes to different types of liquid applieds. Looking at different shower components. So this one here is waterproof and vapor tight. It's an all-inclusive. Everything is kind of meant to work together. Integrated prefabricated components. So this type of shower tray will be pre-pitched at a 2% or a 1/4 inch per foot slope on install. So definitely easy to transport. Something that's super easy is, you know, you're not making multiple trips back to your distributor, pick up materials to waterproof, and your going back and getting your tile. You're not picking up like a cement type product. So something like this can essentially go in the backseat of a truck, and the contractor at the same time can pick up a pallet or two of tile. So quick and easy, easy and simple to install and transport. Couple different options on waterproofing. So waterproof A is going to be a sheet applied membrane. And you can see here that there's some banding incorporated as well. We saw some corners go in the video, and then of course our pipe seal and mixing valve. But there are also foam building panels in the industry as well. These are a nice option if you're not using a solid backing like green board or drywall. So this is another option in the market, fully customizable. We'll talk about some different options in a little bit. Talking about drainage. So this is an example of a point drain. So it's going to create a waterproof connection. We can see that there is also waterproofing integrated on that bonding flange already. It's going to accommodate a wide range of tile thicknesses. So you can bottom the drain out, or you can leave it a little taller if your shower floor tile is a little bit thicker. Lots of different great options to choose from in the industry. And it will integrate with a mortar bed or a prefabricated shower tray. So some different options there. Just looking at the different components on this type of drain, again, we have our bonding flange, which incorporates waterproofing already on it. You see a lateral adjustment ring and a height adjustment collar. Super customizable at this point. I know a lot of times, sometimes the drains don't go in level. So you can kind of compensate between these two parts here to make sure that that finished product looks flat when installed. And then the market has some pretty nice options. Also, I'm not sure if you've seen a tileable. Those are beautiful as well. So if there's not a specific color your customer is looking for, there's a tileable option. So it can just blend and hide right into that tile installation. And then just a quick look on what it looks like installed. Probably my favorite. It just kind of disappears. Also, there are some metal finishes in the market as well. So a couple different options here. I think trend-wise, gold is still pretty hip and popular. So I think we'll definitely be seeing a little bit for a while longer. There's also some other options that are more muted. Maybe the customer is looking for more of a monochromatic type installation. So something that's got like a powder coat finish on it are a nice option. Black and white, which is still pretty popular. And then just incorporating your creams and grays in there as well. More commercially, there are some different options for stainless steel. So both a circle and a square options for 6-inch commercial. Flange options, I'm in Michigan, so we're probably more of a PVC market, but available in a 2 or 3-inch outlet. Stainless steel for both no hub and threaded. On your vertical installations, There are also options in the industry for a horizontal drain. So if you don't have access to the plumbing from underneath, or you're looking to move a drain, maybe turn a bathtub into a shower, you can use something like this. Even a basement is a nice option. So using a drain with a horizontal outlet allows you to avoid modifications to a joist, because those should never be it should never be cut or modified. And then also concrete substrates as well. Or again, if we don't have access to the plumbing underneath, a good option. And then just kind of what it looks like from the side. So we can go anywhere. I believe it's within 36 inches of the original plumbing. You can see we're running our P-trap out to the side, down and out. And then there's also a type of board, a foam board underneath to kind of lift it up to create that pathway to evacuate underneath it. Sometimes the plumber has already been to the job site. So there are options on the market. If you don't want to use a two-stage clamping drain, you can use some type of adapter ring and then have a pressure fit with the drain pictured on the right. So it's a pressure fit that kind of fits into that rubber gasket. So you can incorporate different types of shower systems into your installation. For any type of adapter drain, this specific one has two different sizes, so 5 1/4, and then also a 7 1/4 or 7 1/2 option as well. If we are looking for like a secondary drain in a bathroom, or maybe, you know, multifamily, and we want to put a drain in some of the laundry rooms, this is a nice option. So it's essentially just a secondary drain. It's pretty flat. It has reliable waterproofing already integrated on top of it, and you can see it's connected with an uncoupling membrane underneath it. So some different options for something like this. Polypropylene, and then a couple different options for stainless steel as well. So your no hub, and then your 2-inch threaded outlet as well. Linear drains, which have gained a lot of popularity in the industry over the years. Actually, I'm gonna go back real quick. Large format tile is a great option to use something like this with. So I think a lot of times people think that line drains are too expensive. Maybe they don't fit the budget. But if you are going to use them with a large format tile, a lot of times you're looking at a tile that's maybe $4 or $5 a square foot. Your 2x2 mosaics, if they're sheet mounted, if they're edge tumbled, you know, they can get to be anywhere between $20 and $35 a square foot for the really nice looking ones. So incorporating a line drain and using a large format tile is a really nice option. Lots of multiple lengths on the market to accommodate what you're looking for. And then just looking at some of the components on a line drain, we have a no hub coupler, a channel body support. We have a collar that already has waterproofing again incorporated on top of it, so we don't have to make any additional connections. And then the grate assembly, which will fit into that laminated waterproof, or into the channel body. Some different options on the market, solid, square, and again, just taking a look at that tileable, which I think is pretty nice. If we're looking for something a little bit more stylized, these are nice options too. They kind of just, this one sits in the channel kind of like a paperweight. So pretty nice and creative. So different places we can place line drains. I think for the most part, a lot of times I think they go against the wall or in the center of the floor. I think I see more wall adjacent, but you know, we'll talk a little bit about curbless. Curbless is a great place to use a line drain. Using it in the entry, making sure that we're extending throughout the entire opening. We want to make sure that water is just going to get through that to that slit and just down. So the wall adjacent type, and then also that tileable, are perfect options for entryway placement. The center one you see in the upper right-hand corner that has that kind of those punch outs on there. Soap and water will mix, scoot across it, get into the outside area. So we really want to make sure we're picking a drain that can handle the water. So doorway placement is going to be either a tileable or a kind of a closed type of drain. There's also options on the market that are cuttable. So this type of drain here, you're able to trim on the job site, which is pretty nice. The flange will easily align with the existing drain pipe location. So if it's not exactly in the center of the floor, maybe it's off 3 or 4 inches, there's no need to move it. There's a flange out there that can just get installed wherever that pipe is. And then you can cut the drain on the job site. So pretty quick and easy, super cost effective. A drain like this comes in 2 different lengths, 4 and 8 foot. There's 4 different designs available. You just want to make sure that you're going to use a tile that's going to be 3/8 of an inch or thicker with something like this. But a nice option, and again, more cost effective than a traditional line drain. I will say check the water flow on something like this because it is thinner. But 1 shower head is perfect. So this is some other options that you may see in the market. So some pretty popular ones. And then just taking a look at what optional components you see out there. So again, integrated to be able to be used with a sealed shower system, increased design possibilities, quick and easy to install. We talked about some shower trays. There's also benches and curbs that can be either made or cut down or modified. There's also niches on the market too. So you can see those have kind of a flange around them. So waterproofing is already incorporated on those. And then if you want to get really fancy, you can get a niche that has some LED tracking already installed. And then also different ramp options if we need to modify or do a curbless application. Preform shower trays in the industry. So they just make it quick and easy. They can be cut down. You can add on to them multiple sizes and in quicker than a mortar bed type installation, and very much more lightweight as well. So again, easily cut down, able to be extended with dry pack, and then just making sure that we're overlapping and banding everything is really key. So essentially, if we peel back the layers, this is what you would see underneath this shower right here. So we can see all of our waterproof connections are made. So essentially, we kind of have a big wet room. We've banded seams on an uncoupling membrane. We've made all our waterproof banding connections at any 2 changes in plane. And then essentially, we've kind of wrapped our shower walls like wallpaper. So we're good to go. And then also, again, kind of just being able to transform that tub application into a shower type, into a shower is a great option for hospitality or hotels. Pretty quick and easy. So if you have a customer who's looking to kind of take out some of their tubs, convert them to showers, there's some great options on the market to kind of help you do that pretty quickly and effectively. Shower shelves, so just kind of incorporating a little bit of jewelry into that shower area, kind of dressing it up a little bit. Some different options. You can see here on the left-hand side, we've incorporated some a corner option, also a niche option as well, and then kind of tying it all together with using profiles and a drain grate. So lots of different design options there, and then just some different options within the industry. So we can see a couple different corner ones. Those are retrofits. You can see the tabs on the back. Those get set with silicone. Wall options. So those are nice. They get embedded with the tile. So you're not drilling into any waterproofing. They have a double anchoring leg on them. So you're going to get the most support out of something like that. And then also a niche shelf that goes right in between the niche. So now if said manufacturer has like, sometimes they come with adjustable shelves that you tile. Those I think take a half a day So something like this is nice and clean, and you're going to get a little bit more real estate in that niche, which is nice. Tile is getting bigger, right? And so are shampoo bottles. So just trying to help you out there. So just taking a look at a comprehensive approach to moisture management, taking a look at an integrated system that's all meant to work together, quick and easy to install, and then also talking about a single source warranty. You know, I mentioned that if you're using one manufacturer in the industry, please stick with that whole manufacturer all the way through, because that will really help your chances of getting a full system warranty with whatever manufacturer you're going with. So heading into barrier-free bathrooms. So I would say that a lot of people obviously are taking their current bathrooms, transforming them into open areas. I personally think they're a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. There is an aging population, and we also want to make sure that we're staying within those design standards compliance as well. So again, kind of seniors are modifying their homes to make sure that they're able to continue to use their bathroom, and they work for them as well. Just statistically, kind of taking a look at in 2016, 1 in 7 Americans, and then kind of heading into 2030, where 1 in 5 Americans will be within that 65 and older population.
Kristen,
Yes.
I hate to jump in. We're at the top of the hour.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if we've got another webinar queued up to get started. So.
Okay.
I don't know if you have any closing thoughts. It looked like you were still 2 sections away. And
yeah,
great topic.
Thank you. Yeah, there is a lot of material to cover. I mean, really, it just kind of gets into wet rooms, curbless. I will just say that curbless, we as a manufacturer like to hang out in the curbless area. When you get into ADA compliant, you get into turn radiuses, seat heights. So I'll just, there's products on the market that can help you achieve those different types of scenarios within a tile application, a tile job if you need them to be. So lots of different building products and options to kind of modify what you're looking for.
Excellent. I think, and Mark's been doing a good job behind the scenes, typing answers to questions. But
awesome.
Yeah. So you haven't been talking to a void the whole time.
No.
But definitely.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know if you have a closing thought on this, and give you a minute to do that.
I would just say, if you would like to kind of talk about it further, if you reach out to commercial support at schluter.com, we can get you connected with your local rep. So their email address is commercialsupport@schluter.com. We are happy to come in and talk more about our product, as well as ways to achieve the type of installation you're looking for. If you're working on a project, please get a hold of us. We're happy to help you out.
Perfect. For everyone who's attended, if you need a certificate or AI credit at the end of this, there'll be a form. If you don't get the form, it should come in a follow-up email tomorrow morning. Please fill that out, and we will get the information to Kristen, and then I'm assuming y'all will be able to get those certificates and AI credits registered.
Yeah, they go pretty quick. So as soon as I get the form, I'll send it in, and they should have I believe credit within 24 to 48 hours.
Perfect.
Yep.
Definitely appreciate your time on this great topic, and I think if we do this again next year, we're going to set aside 90 minutes, because this was, I think everyone was very engaged. So thank you so much.
Good. Well, thank you. Showers, we love showers. So we want to help. We want to help your project last, be sustainable, and tile. I said I've been in tile for 20 years. It's a great product. So.
Very good. All right, everyone. Appreciate your time. And for those for part 2 of today, we look forward to seeing you log into that webinar.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.